Okay, welcome to try that again. Welcome to Podcast Editing Day at Sane and Simple Podcasting. Probably one of the biggest time expenditures in podcasting is getting the audio to sound right. Yes, I love this topic so much, it's ridiculous. However, I'm going to start that over. I do not like where my camera is right now. There, I like that better. Okay, welcome to take 3. Welcome to Podcast Editing Day on Sane and Simple Podcasting. Spending time editing your podcast is probably one of the biggest time sucks, and it doesn't have to be. And since I have been podcast editing for clients for about 5 years, I have found ways to speed up the process without damaging anything, actually making it even better of a product, of a sound, audio, video product than before by really focusing in on what is taking up that time. And I will show you exactly the tool that I used to do that. And every now and then I use it again when I feel like I'm kind of getting into a rut and I need a little bit of a push to be more streamlined. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is speeding up your podcast editing. Sane and Simple Podcasting is where I help you manage and promote and share and promote and get more people onto your podcast, whether it be audio, video, or both. Manage and streamline. That's what we do here. I've got all kinds of videos in playlists to help you find what you need over on YouTube. There's an audio version of some of the episodes on any of the apps that you use for audio, as well as a Sane and Simple Podcasting newsletter over on Substack. Yes, we have our experiment with Beehive. I don't know. If you want to hear about that, let me know and I'll do a video on it. There's nothing wrong with Beehive. It just wasn't for me. So we're going back to Substack. I see a trend here. Every time I try to leave Substack, it doesn't work. But that's for a newsletter day. Let me know if you'd like to hear about newsletters. I can add that. I'm doing these lives many days of the week. I cover workflow, ChatGPT for podcasting, YouTube for podcasting, clearly podcast editing, and podcast promotions. If you have any questions or you'd like to come on and be a guest and get some help with a problem that you're having, just feel free to contact me. The link will be in the video notes. All right, podcast editing. Believe it or not, the thing that has sped up my podcast editing the most is slowing down for a few episodes to notice what is slowing me down. Wait, that sounds nonsensical, but it's actually really true. I keep pointing to this paper tracker, and I will try to show you, and I'll definitely tell you what it is. And it's intentionally on paper. Look, I do a lot of spreadsheets on Google Drive. You've seen a lot of them. But this one I intentionally have in paper so that it's sitting right next to me. And I really advise you to do that because, especially if you put it on top of your to-do list, you can't forget to finish it. I don't know about you, but if a spreadsheet is out of sight, it is often out of mind. And if you put this right next to you while you're editing, right next to your mouse or what's it called? The touchpad thingy. How old do I sound? Then you can't forget to finish it because when you edit, it often takes 2 to 3 times. Okay, anywhere from 1.5 to 3 times the amount of the actual raw audio to edit. And that's actually after you're fast. When you first start editing a podcast, it's going to be really slow. I used to take maybe 5 hours for a 1 hour episode, and it didn't even sound that great because I didn't know what I was doing yet back 8 years ago when I first started doing this for my own podcasts. So you really need to, one, probably don't do this method at first. Get familiar with the equipment that you're using to edit your podcast, and then a few months later, then start to do this because then you can start. It's not everything that's slowing you down. It's only a few things. So here's what you do. just, grab some paper, and write 6 different columns. Column 1 is the date. These all have a reason for being here, and I'll describe them in a minute. But first, let me tell you what they are. The first one is date, then podcast episode, the number or the name, part of the name, just so you know which one it is. If you're working on multiple podcasts like I do for clients and myself, put the podcast name there instead, maybe, because that's more important. Which podcast you're working on will probably be more informative for you as you list multiple episodes. You'll be able to see what the bottlenecks are in each type of podcast. If you're just working on one podcast, do the episode number. Start time, the time you started editing, the stop time, the time you stopped editing, total time when you're done, calculate how long was it, how many minutes, how many hours, blah, blah. And then bottleneck. Basically, the bottleneck is the thing that really stopped you from cruising. Like, those times when, I hope you know those times when you edit a podcast episode and you go, wow, that was start to finish, no big problems. That was amazing. That's what you want all of them to be. Anything that gets in the way of that is what you write in that column. So obviously, you're going to write the date first, the episode name or number, or that, the start time. Then you're going to be focusing on the bottleneck. So you're going to go from start time over to here. This is where you're going to write things while you're editing. When you hit something where you have to go back multiple times, or you're not sure, you have that uneasy feeling in your stomach and you're like, I'm going to move on, but I think that doesn't sound good. Write that down. What is it? In any way that helps you. You don't have to find the perfect terminology. Write it down in a way that you can go back and go, yeah, that is a problem. I really want to figure out how to do that better, or how to feel more confident about that kind of problem in my editing. What you'll notice, so do that, fill this out. And if it's many, many, many things, then you can fill out 1 page per episode. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be on one sheet. The important thing is that you keep filling it out for multiple episodes. This is most useful when you do 6, 7, 8, 10 episodes. Then you can see the trends in what's slowing you down. Then you can go over and go, okay, this type of episode, these are the problems I was having. This podcast I'm working on for a client or for myself, if you have multiple ones like I used to have, then you notice that there are things that slow you down in those. What you do then is you take those things that are stopping you, that are pulling you back, that are making you feel less confident about your audio, and then you go and find things to help you. You go on YouTube to look for ways to speed up, whether it be technically or conceptually. You talk to other podcasters. You go into those groups with your podcast host or general podcasting groups, and you go, hey, I've noticed that this part of my podcast editing really makes me lose my confidence, or I don't feel good about it, or I don't know how to do this one technical thing. Ask people. Seriously, ask people. If you have this problem, other people have this problem. You can ask questions here. If you hit a snag, just ask me. And if I don't have that same issue, or if I don't know how to fix it, there'll be other people to interact with that here, or I'll go find some information and get back to you. But find out what are things you can do. Maybe you need to learn some shortcut keys to use your mouse less. Maybe you need to do some sound cleanup with like an AI sound tool like Alphonic before you start doing content editing. There's little tips and tricks you can do to make the things that have you spending a lot of time on your podcast editing shorter, so that you can get into that flow mode quicker. It will take you some time to figure out what the problems are, and it will take you some time to get to the solutions. But once you figure that out, you'll get faster and faster and faster. It's still going to take you more time than the actual audio. Very rarely do you listen to the whole audio and you're done in the time that the audio is. That just doesn't happen very often. Has that ever happened to me? Maybe. When I'm video editing, it's more likely for that to happen because there's just less edits in video for reasons I can explain. If you want, leave a comment. But in general, it's always going to be more than the raw audio time. So be kind to yourself, listen to yourself, and take that a little bit of extra time during the episodes. And when you notice that you're struggling, you hit a wall, you're uncertain about something, you don't feel good about it anymore, you just don't know, write it down on this tracker. Then, when you have a few episodes, look for trends. And then go find solutions, go find ways you can experiment to speed it up, implement them. If they work, keep them. If they don't work, try something else. It's a process. As with everything else at Sane and Simple Podcasting, it is an experimental process. It's sane and simple because you're allowed to experiment and allowed is the wrong word. You're encouraged. I encourage you to experiment, try new things, keep it simple, listen to yourself, and above all else, enjoy the process and know that you're putting out something into the world that people need. And that is way better than perfect. Sane is sort of the opposite of perfect in my mind, right? You want to keep it doable and simple and iterative because you want to learn, you want to get faster, and you want to grow. But you have to be kind to yourself in the process. It's going to take time, and it's going to take probably communication and research and experimenting. All right, so that's it. That is my super lo-fi tracker on how to speed up your podcast editing. I bet that surprised you. There are other things that you can do that are more technical and shiny object, but I think this by far is the one thing that I implemented early on that I don't do every time. I do it when I feel like I'm slowing down or I feel like I keep hitting a snag, but don't I don't know, when I feel like I hit a snag and I need a refresh, that's when I use this. And I bring it back for a bit and then I don't use it forever. You don't use it forever. You just use it to get to the point, to know what you need to learn to get faster. I hope this has helped. Remember, you can go to saneandsimplepodcasting.substack.com to get more tips and tricks in the newsletter, as well as some of these are available via audio on your podcast app. Same name, Sane and Simple Podcasting. It's not just a project that has audio, video, and a newsletter. It is a state of mind, mindset for you to keep your podcasting simple and streamlined so you can work on anything else and so you can enjoy the connections you make with your podcast. Thank you so much. I will be back next week. I'm taking the rest of the week off. So I'll be back next week on February 24th with more workflow tips for you. Again, leave comments below if you have any questions or comments, obviously, on this. And please subscribe, like the channel, share it with someone you know who needs workflow